were the Twits. So, Mr. Twit was playing a pretty extreme trick on Mrs. Twit yesterday, and we never got to find out what happened in the end. The next section is called Mrs. Twit Goes Ballooning Up. "There's enough pull here to take me to the moon," Mrs. Twit cried out.
"Take you to the moon?" exclaimed Mr. Twit. "What a ghastly thought! We wouldn't want anything like that to happen. Oh dear me, no."
"You most certainly wouldn't," cried Mrs. Twit. "Put some more string round my ankles quickly. I want to feel absolutely safe."
"Very well, my angel," said Mr. Twit. And with a ghoulish grin on his lips, he knelt down at her feet. He took a knife from his pocket, and with one quick slash he cut through the strings holding Mrs. Twit's ankles to the iron ring. She went up like a rocket.
"Help!"
she screamed.
"Save me!"
But there was no saving her now. In a few seconds she was high up in the blue sky and climbing fast. Mr. Twit stood below looking up. "What a pretty sight," he said to himself. "How lovely all those balloons look in the sky. What a marvellous bit of luck for me. At last the old hag is lost. Gone. Forever."
And there's a picture of her zooming up into the sky. The next section is called Mrs. Twit Comes Ballooning Down. Mrs. Twit may have been ugly and she may have been beastly, but she was not stupid. High up there in the sky, she had a bright idea.
"If I can get rid of some of these balloons," she said to herself, "I'll start going up and start to come down."
She began biting through the strings that held the balloons to her wrists and arms and neck and hair. Each time she bit through a string and let the balloon float away, the upward pull got less and her rate of climb slowed down. When she'd bitten through 20 strings, she stopped going up altogether. She stayed still in the air. She bit through one more string. Very, very slowly, she began to float downwards. It was a calm day, there was no wind at all, and because of this, Mrs. Twit had gone absolutely straight up. She now began to come absolutely straight down. As she floated gently down, Mrs. Twit's petticoat billowed out like a parachute, showing her long knickers. It was a grand sight on a glorious day, and thousands of birds came flying in for miles around to stare at this extraordinary old woman in the sky. Not something I'd like to see first thing in the morning. But I wonder what will happen when she gets back down on the floor and realises what Mr. Twit has done. The next section is called Mr. Twit Gets a Horrid Shock. Mr. Twit, who thought he had seen his ugly wife for the last time, was sitting in the garden celebrating with a mug of beer. Silently, Mrs. Twit came floating down. When she was about the height of the house above Mr. Twit, she suddenly called out at the top of her voice,
"Here I come, you grizzly old grunion, you rotten old turnip, you filthy old frumpet!"
Mr. Twit jumped as though he'd been stung by a giant wasp. He dropped his beer, he looked up, he gasped, he gurgled. A few choking sounds came out of his mouth. He said,
"I'll get you for this,"
shouted Mrs. Twit. She was floating down right on top of him. She was purple with rage and slashing the air with her long walking stick, which she had somehow managed to hang on to all the time.
"I'll switch you, swazzle," she shouted. "I'll switch you to a swizzle, I'll mash you to a nozzle, I'll nosh you to a nozzle."
And before Mr. Twit had time to run away, this bundle of balloons and petticoats and fiery fury landed right on top of him, lashing out with the stick, cracking him all over his body.
well, I think the story might take a change now, because the next section is called The House, the Tree, and the Monkey Cage. So perhaps we'll have less of their tricks. Just going to read the first part of this section. But that's enough of that. We can't go on forever watching these two disgusting people doing disgusting things to each other. We must get ahead with the story. Here is a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Twit's house and garden. Some house. Looks like a prison. And not a window anywhere. And there we are. No windows. So it's called The House, the Tree, and the Monkey Cage, which you can all see in the picture. And we'll find out some more about that on Monday. Have a great weekend.